Hello everyone. Welcome to the Quilted Story, where every quilt tells a story narrated by you through fabric and thread. My name is Kathleen and I'm a professional quilt instructor and machine embroidery educator. But today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some of my cross-stitch projects that I've been working on. I've had a lot of questions about what kind of projects are you working on, Kathleen? And I want to just let everybody know that I am a quilter and I am a seamstress and I'm a machine embroiderer. But I do like to cross stitch in the evenings. I'm not that great at it. It's okay. I just like to have something to do while I'm watching TV in the evening. I have done quite a few projects. I used to cross stitch years ago when my children were young, and then I got out of it for a little bit. And then, you know, as you get older, your eyes change. And then I found a new way to use a magnifier that had a light on it. And that was a game changer for me. So when I was able to get one of those, I was off and running back with cross stitch once again. And of course, in that time span that I had stopped cross stitching from my previous years to just recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, it has really changed so much. There is just all this fancy floss and all these great patterns and new designers and new fabrics and different kinds of threads, and the possibilities are just endless. So I just felt like I had to jump right in. So, but today I am going to talk about like the cross stitch projects that I'm working on, some of my finishes from the past, and then a little bit of haul that I purchased recently. But the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I give a shout out to Antique Needleworkers, Shelly and Liz. They gave me a shout out last week on their video, and I was so appreciative. They showed my project and notion folders and my spool cases that I sell in my Etsy shop. So if you haven't followed Antique Needleworkers or you haven't seen their videos, jump on over there and watch their videos. They are just a very knowledgeable two women about cross stitch and all kinds of quilting and sewing and yarn type of projects. They are really knowledgeable and you will learn so much from them. So I'll link them down below so that you can just click and go right to their YouTube page. But I did want to give them a shout out and a big thank you, that I really appreciate them taking the time to make sure that they shouted me out and also linked all of my YouTube videos and my Instagram and my Etsy shop in their show notes. That was very, very nice of them. Thank you so much, Shelly and Liz. You guys are the best. So let's move on to today's program, which is all about my cross stitch. And so it's going to be a little bit different because I am a quilter, but a lot of people want to know what I'm working on when it comes to cross stitch. So let's start with some previous finishes that I did. And these are FFOs, which means that they are fully finished. And they're both Easter ones. I thought I would show them to you today because I'm getting ready to pack up all my Easter and spring decor and get out my patriotic decor. So the first one is by Primrose Cottages, and I can't show you the pattern because it's a PDF and I didn't print out the actual picture. But it is from Primrose, and I do believe it's called Spring Wishes. It's one of their smalls, and here it is. I put it on this little stand. I just did a flat mount, double mount with some fabric and then a little bow. And then I just use a little piece of secondary ribbon for the center. Instead of like having a button or something there, I just took a narrower piece of ribbon and I hot glued that right onto there to kind of cinch the bow down. But this little stand came from Hobby Lobby, and then I just mounted the cross stitch onto sticky board, and I get all my sticky board from Fat Quarter Shop because I love their sticky board. And then I mounted just some really pretty pastel striped fabric onto a second piece of sticky board. And then this whole piece is just magneted on so that I can replace it. I actually have other designs that I put on here for other holidays. And so I have one stand, and then that way I can just, interchange that. A lot of people do that. It's a great way to, have like one display and then different mounts that you put on there for the different holidays. Now this little stand, like I said, it came from Hobby Lobby, but it was kind of like a funky looking creamy, like creamy ivory color, and I didn't like it, so I had my husband shoot it with some white paint, just like spray paint, and then that way it kind of gave it more of a uniform look. I didn't like that kind of like worn out ivory look. I wanted it to be white. So that's what I did. And like I said, this is Primrose Cottage's pattern. And I did all the call for colors. Do believe it was all DMC. And I used it's the 20 count opalescent Lugana. And I got that from Fat Quarter Shop, and I really like it because it has an iridescent quality to it. It has some like sparkles to it, and that way I could make it fit this. I was trying to fit this stand. So that's my first one that was a fully finish. And then the second one is a Prairie Schooler, and I can show you that pattern. This is the Prairie Schooler called Bunnies, and believe it or not, I have one of the original copies. I think I got my original copy from 123 Stitch. So, because sometimes, if they have them, that's what they send you. But I picked out, let's see, I did this design right here in the center of the two bunnies, the bunny couple. It's very, very cute. And I stitched it on, let's see, this is 16 count black, oh gosh, it's Cosmo, black Cosmo. And it's like an Aida fabric. I really like it because it's really a rich black, and I got it at Fat Quarter Shop. I used all the call for DMC when I stitched it, and then I just sewed the black. After I finished cross-stitching it, I sewed it to this really cute orange and green fabric to make a panel. And then I mounted the whole thing on a piece of sticky board, and then added the rickrack. I hot glued the rickrack on, made a little simple bow with a button in the center, and then this frame just came, it's like one of those deep frames, and it came from Hobby Lobby. I'm looking to see, it just says wood decor on it, and it was really inexpensive. It was like $3.99, and then I think I got it half off. So for $2, I couldn't go wrong. But this, once I had it mounted on the sticky board, and I did use a piece of batting behind it before I put it on the sticky board, and then I just popped it right in there because I cut it the same size as this opening was. And then I just popped in there. I did put a little bit of hot glue behind it and popped it in there and pushed it in place. So it is permanent, but for $2, I don't need to be exchanging it from, holiday to holiday. But that turned out really, really cute. And it was a great way to stitch on black without getting, carried away with, because sometimes, it's hard to stitch on black for some gals and guys. So that's my Prairie Schooler, and those are my two Easter finishes that I did just recently, and those are completely finished with FFOs. Now, the next thing I want to show you is some finishes that some cross-stitch finishes that I've recently finished the cross-stitch part, but I haven't FFO'd them, but I did, the cross-stitch part is all done. If you watched my last video, I talked about getting started with my Christmas ornaments, but I wanted to finish my Haunted Mansion by the Tiny Modernist, and I did get it finished. I powered through the back stitch, and I did get it finished, so I'll be showing you my whips, which is those Christmas ornaments that I've gotten started. But let's first look at the Tiny Modernist Haunted Mansion. This is what it looks like. It's a, let's see, it's a 7-part series, and I got all my patterns on 1, 2, 3 stitch. And it's 7 different patterns, and they're fairly inexpensive. I think all of the patterns together were like $19, $20. So I didn't think that was too bad considering there was a lot to it. But it did call for all DMC, and I did use all DMC on my project. And here it is, all finished. And let's see, let me go back just a little bit so you can see the whole thing at once, and then I'll move forward. I stitched this on a 28 count Mirage Lugana, and I thought it was a little too soft for me when I first got it. I love the color, but I thought it was too soft, and I'm a quilter. So what I did was I starched it, let it dry, and then I starched it a second time, and then I pressed it after it was completely dry. And that gave it enough body and kept it from like being kind of stretchy in my hoop. I don't know why this Mirage Lugana was a little stretchy, but I love the color of it. It was perfect for my Haunted Mansion. But I did use all the DMC called for colors, and once I got going on it, you know, it was really easy to do. I framed in all the windows first, and all the rooms, I mean, first. And then I went back and I did each one of the rooms individually. And then I saved all the back stitch for last, which probably is not a good idea. However, I was using a hoop, and I didn't want to, I was afraid I would like, because there's some long pieces in like the spider webs and stuff. There's like some long strands, and I was afraid that would get caught on my hoop, and then, you know, and it would distort it. So I waited until I got all of the cross stitch part done. And I was going to eliminate this bottom little cemetery because I had seen another Flosstube gal, what is her name? Once Upon a Stitch, Lori. She eliminated this from the bottom, and it was really, really cute, and I was going to do it. So I was talking to my sister, Lisa, about it, and she said, oh, heavens, you need that. So I felt compelled to, you know, listen to my little sister, and I went ahead and I put the little Halloween graveyard in there. And I really, really like this. I can't wait to frame this. I think I'm going to frame it in a black frame. That's what I'm thinking. But I really, really did like it. It was a lot of fun to stitch on. I love the colors. It's so bright and vibrant. So that is the Tiny Modernist. The Haunted Mansion is the name of the pattern. And I do believe, like I said, I got that at all at 1, 2, 3 stitch. Now the next one is another Tiny Modernist, and it's called Halloween Calendar. And I also got this pattern from, you know what, I got this one from Fat Quarter Shop because I bought it a couple years ago, and then I did it this past year. But I did it, once again, it calls for all DMC, and I did use all of the called for DMC floss. And I stitched it on the same 28 count Mirage Lugana. And once again, I starched it just like I did the Tiny Modernist pattern of the Haunted Mansion. But it turned out so cute. I was really happy with it. And I wanted these two to kind of match because they're both Tiny Modernist. They both were using all called for DMC, and they had the same like look about them. So I want them to kind of maybe be in a same area of my home. So I think I might frame this one also in black. But I really do like it. It turned out so cute, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a quick stitch because I framed it all in just like the Tiny Modernist Haunted Mansion. I framed in the rooms first in that, and I framed in the calendar squares on this, and then I just concentrated on each, whatever one I felt like working on that day. And I could finish usually one of these in an evening stitch. So it went fairly quick, but I'm real happy with it, considering that I feel like I'm a novice at cross stitch because I left the cross stitch world for such a long time. But I'm really happy with this, and like I said, that's that 28 count Mirage Lugana all call for DMC floss. But it did turn out really, really cute. I'm real happy with that one. And that was also Tiny Modernist. So you can kind of see I kind of like Tiny Modernist. Now the last Halloween one I want to show you that I finished the top was a Teresa Kogut. Who doesn't love Teresa Kogut, you know? I love everything this woman does. She doesn't know me from Adam's House Cat, but I'm telling you, we could be sisters because she does things that are in my head, you know, and she puts it out in a pattern or on fabric. She's just fabulous. So I picked up a few of her patterns, and this was the first one. I wanted to do this Creepin' Jack. I just thought he was so cute in his lime green little sweater and his black pants and his pumpkin head. Isn't it adorable? Let me get a little bit closer. And I did pick up this pattern at 1, 2, 3 stitch. So here it is. I stitched this on 32 count vintage Stormy Night. It's like a mottled gray. It's a lighter mottled gray than this Mirage that I used for my other 2 previous ones I just showed you. So I wanted it to be a little bit lighter so that the colors would pop off for him. And I think I'm going to make him like a little, kind of like an ornament, but not really. It's not going to be hanging on a tree. I thought maybe I would just like lean it up against something, make it a leaner. But I have like a couple little black wooden things that I've picked up over the last couple years over, you know, Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever. And if I don't like the color of it, I just have my husband paint it. So that's Creepin' Jack. Isn't he adorable? Just love him. I might stitch him again because I might have to give that away as a gift. So that's the projects that I had worked on that I finished the actual cross stitch, but I haven't FFO'd them. Now I want to show you up next is a couple of the projects that I'm working on. And since we're on a Halloween thing right now, I'll show you. I am working on, along with my friend Debbie, who I kind of suckered into this one, and it is a Stony Creek. It's called Halloween Village, and it's actually supposed to be stitched on an Afghan, and I think Debbie is stitching hers on the Afghan. However, I wanted to make mine a wall hanging, or like I wanted to frame mine and hang it on the wall, so I picked up Fabric Flare, and it is called Hazy Gray by Fabric Flare. So it has like a gray mottled look to it. And so far I have you do these by blocks. There's 30 blocks, and I've got the first and second block. And it's in the I'm starting in the upper left corner. But as you can see, there's a lot to it. And I did have to like make a copy of my pattern from the booklet because I didn't want to ruin my booklet. So I made a copy of the pattern, and then I could like highlight as I you know, finished a row or whatever, because you know, these old lady eyes, I'm telling you, I get confused where I'm at when I'm looking down and I'm looking at the pattern, then I'm looking at my cross stitch. This is the 16 count, so I'm doing 2 threads over 1. And I figured I better do that because this thing is going to be huge. It is going to be like, let me see if I wrote it down. It's going to be 25 by 30 when it's finished. So it's going to be this huge thing. I'm going to frame it. And the only thing I changed, it calls for all DMC. And the only thing, except for there's a couple of, they want you to use, I'm using all DMC except for there's some Threadworks. There's a Fantasy Island color card. It's an over-dyed floss. and it's used in there somewhere. And then it also wanted you to use the light effects for all of the white because it glows in the dark by DMC. However, I started stitching with that on my white. Let me show you where I did it. On the white of the little stripes in the pumpkin. And I know this is just me. I'm a little crazy. But it looked dirty to me. And it was driving me insane how dirty it looked. And it's just the nature of that glow in the dark. So I decided I pulled it all out because I had all of that in there. So I pulled all of that out and I went to the B5200 DMC. So I'm going to, wherever the white is in this pattern, which is quite a bit, you know, like there's ghosts and there's that picket fence and, you know, there's just white all over it down in here. It's just all over it. And I figured it was going to drive me totally insane because I couldn't stop looking at how dirty it was. And it was, you know, it's just me, you know, I think white should look white, but now mine's not going to glow in the dark, but who cares? Who's going to be looking at it? You know, I kind of looked at it that the only person who's ever going to see it glowing in the dark is me and my husband, and we don't care, you know? So I figured I'll just do it in white because then I'll be happy because it'll look clean. And so that's what I decided to do. So I did change that. And, you know, I was able to get all my flosses. I did buy all my flosses for this through 1-2-3 Stitch. And it's because if you look at it, let me show you this list of flosses, and you need multiples of them. So I was afraid that my die lots wouldn't be the same. So I ordered from 1-2-3 Stitch, and I asked them to please make sure that the die lots were the same for each color, you know, and each color number, because I was going to be using it in the same project. And they were fabulous. They did exactly that. And then they sent me all my flosses, and I had them all, you know, I had everything I needed. And I think that any of the ones that were multiple that I needed, I did buy an extra one just to be on the safe side, because Kathleen has a tendency to make mistakes, and then I have to rip it out, and then you have a holy mess. And if you look on my Instagram, you can see how I had to rip out that tiny Modernist Haunted Mansion at the beginning 4 times, 3 or 4 times. It was not fun, but I persevered, okay? So I get extra points for that, right? So anywho, I was afraid that I would, you know, I might have that problem. So I decided I better get a little extra just so to make sure I had the right color lot, you know, the die lot. But I did stitch it on the 16 count, like I had said, for Fabric Flare Hazy Gray. And the reason why I went with the 16 count, because this thing's going to be really, really big, and I didn't want to be going over 2 threads for such a large project. I figured I might be crazy before I get it done. Now, my sister tells me I'll be 107 by the time this is finished, and she might be right. But I am going to plug away at it. This is like the only big thing I've got going on right now. Everything else is kind of smaller. So, but I really, really do like it. My friend Debbie has started hers too. I don't know how far she is, but hopefully she will, you know, give me a heads up on where she's at on hers. I figure that the first one done is the winner, right? I don't know about that. But anyway, I have enjoyed it, and that Fabric Flare, you know, the fabric is just perfect for this. It's hazy gray. They make a lot of great colors and, you know, over dyes and stuff on their fabric. And then you can pick whatever count you want, and you can pick Lugana or Ada, and I think they have linen too. I don't know. I don't stitch on linen because, you know, it drives me insane that it has all these slubs, you know. So I've just stuck to either Ada or even weave, and I'm happy with that because I feel like, you know, I'm kind of a neat freak. I know it's hard to believe, but that's the way I am. I've been wired that way since birth, I think. However, I figure if I'm not enjoying it, I don't want to do it. So that's what cross stitch is all about. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself, and you're supposed to be relaxing, not getting all uptight and going wackadoodle. So that's why I decided to go with that 16 count Ada for this particular project in the fabric flare. So the next one I wanted to show you, the next things I want to show you is the project that I'm working on right now. I actually started my ornaments, and here's my little floss. This is my floss bobbin keeper, and then this is my Project Notions folder that I showed in my video prior to this one. I have all of my flosses in my floss keeper, and as I had mentioned before, this stands up like a book because it's very stiff, and then it snaps shut so I can keep all of my flosses in there without, you know, having any problem with it falling out or, you know, losing a floss bobbin or whatever. It does hold 30 or more depending on how full your bobbins are, and I really like that because then I just set this next to me and I can see the colors, I can see the numbers, and I'm not digging through my bag or whatever. So that's how I organize them. But what I'm working on is I started my first perforated paper. Let's do a little, you know, moment of silence because Kathleen has never worked on perforated paper before. I'm afraid, I think the reason why I've always shied away from it is because I tend to have a death grip on things when I'm, you know, because I have things in a hoop and I tend to have a death grip on it. And I was so afraid, you know, with this little piece of perforated paper for the ornament, you're just holding, you know, the perforated paper, you know, 5x5 or 6x6 or whatever. And I was so afraid I would manhandle it to death and, you know, crush it and make it a hot mess. But I just have to, when I'm stitching on it, I have to remind myself to, you know, relax. I know, it's hard to believe. But anyway, what I'm working on is this little, one of these little snowmen, and I'm doing this one here. I'm doing this red one with the little snowman family, and it's going to be a little ornament that's a sweater, a Christmas sweater. Isn't that adorable? I borrowed this pattern from my sister Lisa because, you know, she's fabulous. And it actually came from one of her magazines, and it's a foreign magazine. Let me see. It's called Cross Stitch Favorites. And she was telling me that the only place you can buy this particular magazine is at like Barnes & Noble or like a bookstore. You can't just get it like at your grocery store, you know, where they sell magazines. You have to go to like a Barnes & Noble. She loves to buy this particular Christmas issue. She always gets it, and I was thumbing through it, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to borrow that. So she let me borrow it because she's sweet and she loves me. But I started off, like I said, with this three-man little family snowman one. And what I did is I have it in my Santa folder, okay? And what I do is, while I'm working on it, I have this on my lap, okay? This project folder. Let me show you. And so what I do is, this is what it looks like while it's sitting on my lap. Can you see that? My flosses are on there. I got my needle parked up there because when you're working on perforated paper, you can't just stick it up in the corner of your fabric because perforated paper, you would just distort it if you did that. If you know, punched it through the holes to kind of hold your needle. So I keep my needle parked up there in the needle parker, and then my threads that I'm working with at the moment are right here on the floss keeper that's in the center of the booklet. And then this is my little project that I got started. Let me pull the thread out of the way so you can see it really good. Let me put it, well, let's see. I think you can see it. I've gotten pretty far, but I'll tell you, this pattern is like confetti heavy. And it's like you stitch two threads or two squares with one color, and then you got to switch it to another color. And it's like 4 shades of red and 3 shades of purple. So it is very confetti heavy, but that's what gives you that variegated look without using variegated variegated threads. But I would say I'm probably, oh, I don't know, what do you think? 2/3 way done. And look, my perforated paper's in pretty good shape. I haven't manhandled it to death. So I'm hoping that I've actually, you know, made progress and I'm learning. Now I'm stitching with 2 threads over 1. This is a 14 count perforated paper in white. And I think the next one I do on the perforated paper in the 14 count, I'm going to try 3 threads because, I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a little see-through in some areas, but maybe it's supposed to look like that. I don't know. Because I've never, like I said, I've never really done it before. So, I mean, give me some suggestions in the notes down below. Let me know what you do on your 14 count perforated paper. Do you use 2 threads or do you use 3 threads? My sister says she uses 2 threads. My daughter-in-law says she uses 2 threads. Maybe I pull tighter with my stitches and maybe that's why I'm getting, like, I'm seeing more like holes, you know. And I even talked to a customer and she was telling me that she had the same problem. And so I said, well, what if we use 3 threads? And she goes, oh my gosh, you know, it's like between the two of us, I don't think we thought about it until after, you know. And so I think she's going to try it. And I think I'm going to try it on my next one and see if I like it better. So, but while I'm working on it, when I get done working on it, you know, for the evening, what I do is I just stick it in the center there, okay? And then I snap this thing shut. It's hard to show you this while I'm standing up. But see, I snap that shut, and then that way, all of my, you know, my flosses that I'm working with at the moment and that piece of perforated paper is locked in that center folder. And then I close the whole thing and I snap it shut. And then I'm ready to go. So this and my little floss keeper, my floss bobbin keeper, is all I need to work on that project. It's these 2 little things. I can stick them in my bag. I can stick them in a drawer next to my chair, my stitch chair in the family room, and I'm ready to go. So I have really enjoyed this particular size of my Project Notions folder for the smaller projects, you know, the ornaments, the 5x7 cards. So I'm going to be having a new release coming up in May, so be sure to follow me on Instagram, and that's Maddie and Me Too Instagram. That's my handle. And then that way you'll be notified when the sale is going to be, and it will take place in my Etsy shop, which is maddieandme2.etsy.com. I'll link all that down below in the show notes so that you can go right to it. You don't have to worry about, you know, writing that down right this minute. But that's my ongoing project right now. I want to finish that one ornament so that I can move on to a couple other smaller things. And then I'm going to get back to doing a block at a time of this Halloween village in between the ornaments. That's going to be my focus, my big focus piece. Now, the next thing I want to show you is my recent haul. One thing that I did kit up as a reward for finishing my Halloween haunted mansion. When I finished that, I wanted to reward myself by buying a new pattern and kitting it up. Now, I haven't started it because I wanted to get my ornaments underway, but I am going to start it here pretty soon. But I do have it all kitted up. I bought all the threads. I bought the fabric. I have it serged. I have it all kitted up. And it is Little House Needleworks Kringles. Now, Lori from Once Upon a Stitch is doing this, and she helped me out by telling me some of the threads that she substituted and, you know, what colors she was using. And because I wanted to use some DMC, but then some of the fancy floss that it called for. So I kind of used her rule of thumb that she was using, and then I kind of like pulled from my stash, and then I did order some threads because I decided to go with the black coffee, which is where, you know, everything behind this word Kringles is that black coffee, and up in the roof, that's all black coffee. I decided to buy that because I just like the variegation that was in it. And I got it at 123 Stitch. I got all my stuff from 123 Stitch. And once again, I asked them to make sure that the dye lots were the same because I was going to be using it all in one project, and they accommodated me just perfectly. So I have never been disappointed in anything that I have bought, purchased, or ordered from 123 Stitch. They're very fast to ship. And I live in South Carolina and they're in Texas, and I get it fairly quick. So I did kit it up, and I'm going to stitch it on. I decided to go with 28 count let me just fold it in half. 28 count vintage stormy night. It's one of my favorites. And I like the mottled look that it has in it. So I'm using the 28 count. I've been using 32 count for a lot of my projects when I'm stitching over 2, but I decided to go to the 28 count because this is a pretty good size little project. So I decided to go to the 28 count because, you know, got the old lady eyes, but it's okay because I got my magnifier and my light, so, you know. But I did get all the flosses. Everything's all kitted up in my little Santa bag. I make these little project bags with the little matching thread beds, you know, and then my little case that I put all my like extra bits in. I like to keep all my stuff organized in a zipper bag. These are pretty big. They're 12 by 15, and I quilt mine. So I have that all kitted up in my Santa bag. I'm all set, ready to go. When I get this, I think I'm just going to try to finish this one ornament before I move on to another small ornament, and I'll interchange it. I'm going to do a little bit of time on my plan is to do a little bit of time on the Pringles. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Pringles, the storefront one from Little House Needleworks. I'm going to do a little bit of time, like 10 days, and then I'll move over and do 10 days on my Halloween Village. And that'll kind of give me a little bit, you know, of a different colorway. You know, I'm doing Christmas colors than Halloween colors. And then I'll do like 10 days on an ornament. I'm hoping that I can finish an ornament in 10 days. Don't hold your breath. But I will try, and we'll see what happens. But I was hoping that maybe I could do an ornament in that 10-day rotation, and then just see how far I can get on Kringles in 10 days and how far I can get in 10 days on the Halloween Village, and then just kind of rotate it that way, those 3 type of projects. So, and see what I can get done by the end of the year. I'm hoping to get at least 4 or 5 ornaments done by the end of the year, maybe more if I'm lucky, but that's the plan. And we'll see what happens. You know, life happens and you start doing other things. And so, you know, you just got to kind of go with it. So the other 2 pieces of haul that I got this past week was I bought Hello Halloween, Teresa Kogut again, because one can never have enough Teresa Kogut, right? Am I right? I love her stuff. So I bought her this booklet. When I seen this booklet come out, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have that. Because first of all, I love Halloween. And second of all, I love her vintage look to her designs. So I haven't decided or kitted anything up. I'm just kind of thumbing through the book. It's like a coffee table book for me. I just look through it and try to decide what I'm going to do first. So, because there's so many projects in there and there's so many things to choose from that I got to kind of think about which one I want to do first. So I did pick up her book. And then, because I'm a quilter, I recently picked up Riley Blake's Bad to the Bone Fat Quarter Bundle. And as you can see, they're very, very pretty Halloween colors. Bad to the Bone by Riley Blake. I love Halloween fabric. One can never have enough Halloween fabric. And the thing about Halloween fabric is, and I've said this before in my previous videos, is that when you find a line or, you know, a piece or 2 of fabric that is Halloween, when you see it, you need to get what you want, because there's a limited amount of Halloween that gets manufactured in a year's time. And once it's gone, it's gone. And you may not find that colorway again. And I kind of like the vintagey Halloween, and those colors, those oranges and blacks and into the white with the black, that's very vintagey looking. So I picked up the Fat Quarter Bundle. I normally buy the half-yard bundles, but I bought the Fat Quarter Bundle because by the time I decided I wanted to buy this, I couldn't get the half-yard bundles. All I could find was the quarter-yard bundle, or it's a Fat Quarter Bundle. So I'll be happy with it, and I'll make something fabulous with it, hopefully. Hopefully I'll get several projects out of it, because I do believe there's 27 fabrics in this one. but I haven't even opened it. And it's in my studio. Can you believe it? Because I don't usually bring fabric into my studio unless it's been laundered, because I pre-wash all my fabrics. Yeah, I know. Okay. It's just a personal preference, okay? So anyway, it's in my studio and it has not been laundered, so write this date down. But there it is, Riley Blake, Bad to the Bone. So that's what I have for you today. I'm hoping that you enjoyed this segment about my cross-stitch projects. It's a lot of fun to get inspired by other people's work or what they're working on, or maybe what their idea is or how they finish something. So please give me a thumbs up on this video and maybe subscribe to my channel. The next time when I come back to talk to you guys, I will be talking about my next upcoming release in my Etsy shop about my project keepers, my Project Notion folders, and my spool cases, and my floss bobbin folders, or floss bobbin keepers. And then I'll have the stitchy stuff bags also. So what are you hoping to see get released in my next big release drop in my Etsy shop for my project keepers? Give me a comment below. Are you looking for Halloween? Are you looking for maybe stitchy birds? Are you looking for another holiday, Christmas or patriotic, or just everyday? You know, a lot of people just like to have one that's like an everyday fabric. And that's what's great about the stitchy birds. That blue and red line is perfect because it's all about cross stitch. It's a cross stitch theme. So it's an everyday print. But what are you looking for? So give me a comment below and tell me what you're thinking, and ask me any questions that you'd like me to answer about the projects that you saw today, or about my Project Notion folders or my project keepers, anything about that, or anything about quilting or my sewing, or maybe go over to my Instagram, see my, I have over 600 posts there about different things that I'm working on. I like to show things in progression. So check me out over there. Check me out on my Etsy shop, and send me a conversation, or send me a message and ask me whatever questions you want to ask. But please give me a thumbs up on this video and subscribe to my channel. And we'll see you here next time. Bye-bye now.